Hey, what's going on, everyone? Oh, that's a lot of orange on my face. What's going on, everyone? It is Monday afternoon. I'm Nick Paro. This is Banner and Backbones Palantalk, joined as always by my co-host Shane Yirak, co-founder or sorry, founder of the Firebrand Project, geopolitical analyst, and just a guy who's been covering a lot of what's going on and knows a lot about what's going on. Um, Welcome, man. It's good to see
Yeah,
you. How
it's
are you
good to
today,
see
dude?
you.
You've been
I'm
busy as
tired.
hell this weekend.
Yeah, I was telling Nick before the show. Last thing I said at the end of my last report last week is I'm like, I really hope they don't bomb Iran over the weekend, um, because I
And then
don't
they
want to
did.
work. And they did. So I think they heard me. I don't think it was any other factor for sure. Like it was definitely they're listening to my live stream and they're like, oh fuck this guy. So I
Fuck
think
this
that's what
one
happened.
dude. Fuck this
Um,
one dude named Shane.
Yep,
We're gonna
it's
screw
him.
his weekend up.
Yep,
Uh,
exactly. But
oh,
it's been
yeah.
nonstop. I've probably slept like 12 hours over the course of the last 3 days because the time change is so massive. The cadence is kind of like salvos are going off
Hmm.
at certain times over there. So it's if you kind of want to keep track of all of those things, there is a certain degree of. I mean, it's the thing that's really kind of staggering is how consistent they've been so far,
Yeah,
in their ability to strike. And we can get into a lot of this
we
because
should too. And that's what
um,
I want to do today is
yeah,
focus on like what does it look like going forward? Because no, more war, apparently. Like
yeah,
they said no more war. What they meant was no, more war.
no,
And that's what
comma, more war.
more war. That's what we're getting. We're getting more war because it's profitable for Peter Thiel. It's
You know,
profitable for Elon Musk. It's profitable for Mark Zuckerberg. It's profitable for Robert Pera at Ubiquity. It's
right?
profitable for these tech groups that profit on war. They have a manifesto about increasing it. Shane and I have talked about it. Like about one of the Palantir CEO's manifestos
Mhm.
around like the need for more war so that the war machine can make more money. Like that's what they want to do. So no,
Right.
comma, more war is what we're talking about today. And
Yep.
unfortunately, they did bomb Iran. And let's get into it first. Let's talk about what happened. One, there can be multiple things true at once in this. So we're going to say this with that very specific clause. One, I don't give a shit about the Ayatollah of Iran. He was a brutal dictator.
Holy shit. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
like,
just got a report. Kuwait has actually shot down 3 US jets in friendly fire.
like on
Um,
was it three this did they report that this morning? I saw something about
so I was
that talked
covering
about it.
one last night when I at 11:46 when I sent my report out. I'd seen confirmed video footage of one. So what I'm seeing now is
At
that
this
at
point,
least
this is where you would be, where the military should be, because this is what we would have done when I was in the service, was we would have shifted posture immediately towards the Kuwaitis and gone, hey, one is an accident. Two might also be an accident, but three is a pattern. And that means somebody is, in my opinion, somebody would be doing something on purpose to make that happen. Because after one, you don't like, after one, it's maybe there was an insider threat. But after three, you have to be looking at an insider threat. And there have been all these mentions of the service members need to turn off any or remove any apps from their phone that allow for location tracking, um, like TikTok, Snapchat, Signal. other things like that, it's really, that's for a reason, because we said it. If we start a war, it's going to endanger Americans' lives. It always does. It's going to first endanger them globally at in Iran or around Iran in the Middle Eastern area, because that's what happens in wars. It escalated, and Iran broadcasted they were going to fire back immediately or come back and launch from their other platforms outside of Iran if this ever happened. And it's happening. Um, and so we would have shifted posture towards what happened and been like, hey, insider threat needs to be investigated right fuck now, because three F-14s, I think they were, or F-15s.
There are 15s, and I can explain this. I actually disagree with you. I don't think it was on purpose. So, I don't think it was on purpose, and I can tell you why. Because
Okay,
this is one
yeah,
of the
go
things
ahead.
I anticipated was going to happen. So the F-15 in particular is not a stealthy aircraft. It's loud, it's fast, it's a ground attack aircraft. So,
Yeah, it's a shoot thing, kill thing aircraft.
right. So Kuwait has intercepted 283 drones and 97 ballistic missiles. That's one of the highest counts that we've seen given on any country. One of the things I was worried about is the volume of jets they brought to the
Hmm.
region. We have to understand that when you're looking at a radar track, you're not immediately going to know what the transponder on that aircraft is, right? If you're tracking 97 ballistic missiles, you're going to be reacting to those threats in real time. Now, what it shows is the US C2,
Hmm.
one is failing to coordinate with allies. If they should be telling the Kuwaitis, hey, we have X jets in the air, right? Because now you're under attack. So you need to share intelligence because they're also under attack. They're going to defend themselves. The second thing is these same shoot downs, I think we equally have to consider mechanical failure, because we know this Pentagon has experienced effectively a full purge. It's full cronyism in the Pentagon. Uh,
Yes.
there's no tactical insight, because if you did have tactical insight, this operation would never have occurred. So the thing to really consider here is, are these jets just that poorly maintained? I mean, they're putting tons of hours on these things, right, to fly them around the world. I mean, it's not like US jets don't have the fuel capacity to travel long distance because they built everything on the assumption they're going to be operating off of aircraft carriers. And they also had a very big stratotanker fleet. That fleet is under strain because they have a ton of aircraft there. Also, all of these planes, the United States isn't really able to make replacement parts. It's why our F-35 program is non-functional. We're not making F-35s because we can't. It's one of those things where I think it's multiple things. I think you could have mechanical failure. I think you have a lack of communication between the United States and the Kuwaitis in this case. And Kuwait is interested in protecting its own interests, right? These missile strikes from Iran are striking oil platforms. They're striking hotels. One almost hit the Burj Khalifa, right? Like these are all things that this response was designed to punish. This
Yeah.
was the response for Khamenei's death. They pre-planned this. So when Khamenei dies, if he died, they had a plan.
Yeah.
And that plan is scorched earth. And I said that on day one. I said the Iranian plan is scorched earth. They told us what they were going to do. They weren't shy about it. The assumption, I believe, was that they would decapitate and the regime would collapse. That was not the case.
Yeah, when the response that we got after this initial bombing was the same one that George Bush gave when he claimed victory in Iraq. And there was an entry plan, maybe, and there was no exit strategy. And there was no in between. Normally, wars have like 4 steps to them. There's entry, there is fighting the war, there's hearts and minds, there's exit strategy. And that's like the scope of war. This team has starting and nothing else after it. And um, that's going to be an issue going forward because yes, communication, intelligence sharing, people don't trust us. There's been a purge at the Pentagon. It's just been slower and more official sounding than what the Nazis did in Germany. They didn't do a single night of glass or night of
Kristallnacht.
they didn't do a crystal knock. They didn't do that. They gave us that warning of like, hey, we're going to purge you. And then everyone was like, yeah, no, they're not. And then we've slowly been seeing generals and admirals and flag officers get removed. We've also seen the purge at the JAG in the Pentagon and other places that were very swift and very early and didn't get stopped. So when people say, well, the military is going to, when is the military going to say no? Well, all the infrastructure to say no had already been taken out prior to us doing these actions. So it's really hard for service members to know what is right and wrong and say no at times. Not an excuse, just putting frame of reference there. While I agree that it could be mistake or mechanical error, like it's hard to think, even for like, let's say while we were in the beginning of the Iraq War and we had really shitty leadership there, and things were like during the war also, like we had terrible manufacturing and terrible supply chain issues. The service members were still able to maintain the systems at a level that was at or above standard for flight. I think blaming it on the mechanical error for the flight system right now would be too early because they haven't been put into as much strain as they're going to when those systems will fail. Um, like airframes are meant to be their asses beaten on. Um, and I know this only because I know an airframe mechanic. And so I just talk from experience on understanding just
Yeah.
like that part of it. That said, could
I
it have
might
easily been
back on you a little
like
bit.
a miss on the radar because we didn't
Mhm.
announce it?
That's a
Yes,
big one
it could
too.
have been. Yes, I that's a very plausible solution. I am just saying no matter what, if
Yeah.
3 of our planes get shot down,
Yes.
the military must shift posture
Correct.
onto possible insider threats. Counterintelligence professionals should be looking into that. And if we don't have those systems in place, that's an issue too, because then our service members are even at an even heightened risk of these responses because we've seen service members die already, 4 at least. Like that's what they've reported is 4, and then we had 5 seriously wounded. We are going to see those numbers increasing, and Donald Trump is okay with that because it makes him and his buddies money. They
You know
don't
what
care
his
about
address
us.
should have been? His address should have been, some of you may die, and that is a price I'm
Yeah, I'm
willing to pay. Lord
waiting
Farquaad.
for Lord Farquaad to come out and just
Yes.
and Shrek standing there in the middle, like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Kill the ogre. You know, it's the ogre's Iran, right? And Shrek kicked their ass. So the question is, you know, and you make a good point. So the reason I just think a little bit, it might be, it could be both. Like I think one could be friendly fire, two could be friendly fire, one could be mechanical. The thing is, and I was looking into this morning. United States hasn't been able to acquire spare parts um, for quite some time at any scale. The F-15 is one of our older airframes.
Yes.
So
It's also
it
one of our more reliable airframes. even though it is older. Yes, it's towards the end of its lifespan as a serviceable, like, only by choice. Like the F-15 is a fucking great jet, great fighter jet.
Yeah,
They
it's
didn't need to
really
go.
good.
They didn't really need to do much better. They chose to. They chose to fuck with it. They have a perfectly good jet that can kill everything else around it.
Sure.
It's fast. It's nimble. It's well armed. Like, it's a good fighter jet. We didn't need anything. We wanted stealthier. Um, that said, yes, it is an older frame. It's an older airframe, and because it's an older airframe, it could be tooling if they decided to. If the war machine in the U.S. and public opinion was there where they could shift the manufacturing base to a war machine manufacturing base, which is why they want to bring manufacturing back to the US, is because they want to have a war machine that can manufacture from the US and nothing else. They don't care about us. They want to fight wars only. No, comma, more war is what their slogan is. More war. That's all they want. They want more fucking war. And so that's why they want the manufacturing. That's why they want the AI data centers. They want those things so that they can have and produce more war. They need
Yeah.
public support and opinion for that. And if it was a mechanical failure on the airframe, that would be good to know this early in a war, because the public opinion there is maybe we shouldn't fucking go to war
Correct.
any further than we are, and we demand that you do a diplomatic solution. And if you cannot find one, well, fuck, you screwed the fuck up, and we will end this war as quickly as possible and withdraw ourselves from the region. Like, that's a viable solution too.
You know,
Just
it,
saying, just
yeah.
saying, like, we don't
No,
have
absolutely.
to kill ourselves, and the service members don't have to go die. One, you can be a conscientious objector. You can easily do that as a service member. You are allowed to say, I conscientiously object from going into this fight.
So I think you're right. But if there's one thing, I like, there's very few things I am
Well, I'll correct
100%.
myself on conscientious objector if I'm wrong there. I want to make sure I'm right there about that. But remind yourselves, you can say no.
Absolutely. So there's not a ton of things I'm 100% certain about. I am 100% certain that the United States, under zero circumstances, is going to be able to rebuild its military industrial complex in this era. It's not possible because of the pariah status it has achieved for itself. The things are far too atrophied. The factories are not built at scale. The technology, but most importantly, the limiting factor is physics. The physics say there's not enough. The physics say that trade deals between other countries are more efficient. They are better. Um, they're better set up, and the United States is being is cut off from its primary supply of these materials, which is China. What it's doing is only going to probably see China escalate um, its trade barriers on the United States. It's just not
Yes.
possible. It's just not possible. I don't care like what people say. I'm looking at physics. I'm looking at the physics. I'm looking at the raw input of supply versus demand. The supply is not there. It won't be there. And it's been that way for over a year. So like when I consider they flew a lot of these aircraft from the US. Some of these aircraft came from the US. They flew across the ocean to the UK, and they flew them back down to the Middle East. I mean, when's the last time a lot of these airframes went on 30-hour flight mission and went straight into combat? Like, when's the last time we've done that? Like, I I I don't attribute exceptionalism to the U.S. military anymore. They're not operating with
No, we
exceptionalism.
haven't won wars very well. Like, we're
No,
not very good at winning wars, especially in the Middle East. Like, if historically, too, looking at it from a historical standpoint, empires go to die in the Middle East.
they
Empires
do.
go to die in the Middle East, and that's what happens. And we did that. We did that We went into the Middle East and we turned our empire, because the US is an empire. We have colonies, basically. We have our non-state entities that we govern, such as Puerto Rico and Guam and a lot of Pacific islands and things like that. We consume those. That's part of empire. But we failed in the Middle East, just like everybody else. Just like everybody else. And you know what? We knew it was going to happen too. We called it. We all said it the first fucking time. Desert Storm was enough. And then we went back again and again. And now we're stuck there forever because we decided to spend all our money there instead of back home. And I want to go back before we go too far around the conscientious objector piece, because I think this is going to be a really important little tidbit for y'all. As a uniformed service member, you are able to claim conscientious objector status. However, it is a very strict process and you must follow it. It is a legal process that goes through the DoD instruction 1300.06, and it is service specific regulations based on which branch you are in. So if you are a conscientious objector to a war in Iran, which you can be, like if you object very, very thoroughly to what is going on, you can submit. You can submit for it. The Orders Project is a thing that exists for service members to get legal advice while they were in service. While they are in service, it is prior service members who are there to support you. You can go get legal advice from people who are not currently serving. They are trained and they know what they're talking about. Their prior service members who are non-political still. They're not biased towards a party. They're biased towards the Constitution, and that's okay. It is okay to have a pro-constitutional bias, and that's what they have, and they will give you information. And so I will make sure we put up on the screen here. I may have the QR code for it already, but if I don't, I will put up on the screen here the QR code for, and drop a link in at least our Substack chat, and I'll put it into our other chat so others can see it, is for the Orders Project. So if you know a service member who may have questions about legal and lawful orders, or how can I, as a conscientious objector, not go and be deployed, go get the support you need now before you find yourself in the Middle East for an unknown amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, so actually we do know how long this is going to last in a certain sense. And this is the one thing I've been monitoring religiously. I've been monitoring from the beginning of the war, and its interceptor expenditure. And I'm actually seeing interceptor fatigue, as well as rationing earlier than I thought. And we have real concrete data to support that. Iran has also succeeded in its objectives to degrade U.S. military operational efficacy and tempo by striking 14 U.S. bases across the region. In essence, for example, in Kuwait, the airfield itself was cratered and damaged. It is no longer functional, so they cannot use stratotankers to cycle through their emergency landings. Things like that are not possible. Every time they damage an airfield or an airbase, it limits the United States' ability to conduct sorties at a certain pace, because it forces United States command and control to adjust their plans in real time. And we've seen this. Actually, the UK opened their airfields to the United States because the US asked, not because they were like, oh, we could use an extra. It's because they lost a certain operational capacity. So they're now pivoting to regional allies. I mean, like there's videos of all of these bases on fire. Like this is not like a thing. And we're seeing a massively underreported scope of response in the United States, which is exactly what we expect. This is exactly what Russia does in Ukraine. They made a serious mistake, a massive blunder, and the reality is the damage is it's a global crisis for a lot of reasons. But the reality for me is that by day 2, Israel is selectively allowing missiles into to impact because they're saving interceptors. So there is a specific example of this that was documented, and this is our bellwether, right? This is what we're seeing, and this is
Here too, question while you're talking about this is where do you know where the missiles are hitting, and are they allowing missiles to come through that are hitting, say, middle of nowhere?
no. So one of the most lethal strikes on Israel was in Beit Shemesh. It killed 9 people, and they or ultimately it struck a
Do we know
residential
who
neighborhood.
those 9 people were?
It was just civilians. It was a
Well,
residential
no.
neighborhood.
Do we know if they were Palestinian civilians?
No, this is Jerusalem. This is 35 miles west of Jerusalem.
Understand. I understand, but we have to remember it's Israel and they track where they're a surveillance state. They are an Orwellian nation and surveillance state, which means and I'm not speculating that it was until we have proven information if it was or was not. I am just putting the thought out there because this is something that we have seen Israel do, is be very selective about it, how it hits things or how it allows things to be hit within its own nation.
So I have your answer.
Okay,
Um,
cool. I love when we can verify these questions as we're asking them because that
yeah.
gives us truthfulness.
So we are talking about the Iron Domes, Iron Dome, to answer the question in the chat. But these were all ultra Orthodox Jews. Okay, so these
Okay.
are the people who are hardline supporting, and so they straight up said
Well,
that
ultra
they
orthodox in Israel doesn't always mean that they support this type of action. There are some very distinct camps in Israel on how they do things. So that we I'm Israel is a very layered nation of internal surveillance on itself. And
yeah,
so I
you know,
just I understand as that we need to be very selective on what Israel does and doesn't do or where it allows. And it would be interesting to know where they align politically within their own nation, just because Israel is they have the missiles, they have it
so
right. But rationing missiles too, we could also see Israel's been doing this for a while. They've been at war with Gaza and with the West Bank and with Lebanon and regions around it for a while now. They've been depleting their assets for
do you want the
since
number?
since before Donald Trump came into office.
Do you want the number of depletion?
Yeah,
Because I have it.
absolutely. Oh,
Okay,
absolutely, definitely.
I have everything. Like
No, I
I'm
know
telling
you do.
you.
I've been following what you've been putting out. You've been putting out some
So
really strong information or like data backed points about what is
that's
going on and where it could go.
that's all that's going to come out from me. That's what I do. So, like, just to say this, if you guys are trying to track this conflict, if you're not subscribed to me, do it.
Oh
I'm
yeah, go
going to
subscribe
cover
to the
this.
Firebrand Project. That's
Um,
where you will find geopolitical analysis that is on point and well sourced, well thought out. I trust Shane's analysis on things. We push back on each other because we can and
yeah,
we're willing
no, it's
to.
part of it, right? Force each
Yeah,
other to think. That's most
we
important.
force
And like
each
that
other to
was a
be
great
better through this.
holy shit, what just happened? That was a great point on the stop it, don't do that. That was a great point on who was let through. But the reason I think that we can kind of say that's less likely is they ultimately did launch an interceptor. They launched
Yeah,
a lesser interceptor than what they should have used. So they
yeah,
launched something that was less likely to intercept. Because they also know the trajectory of these missiles, right? They have really advanced programs that are looking at the flight trajectory. They see where they're coming. They can estimate. And so they knew that it was going to come down where it was going to come down. So they made a conscious decision to allow 28 people to get injured, as well as 9 people to be killed. And in a region of the city that, is likely to be fairly supportive of at least the general Israeli sentiment. Not everyone. We don't want to use absolutes, but, it's one of those places where it's certainly not like Palestinian Jews, right? Where they would probably give 2 shits, right? Whether or not,
Yes.
they are getting killed or not. And so this is where we can see a bellwether, right? And it's also like, dude, Israel's getting hammered. It's on fire.
Well, Israel's been getting hammered for over a year now because they've been waging a war that we all told them don't fucking do. Everybody around the world was like, don't fucking do this. And then they did it, and then nobody stopped them. And so Israel is doing this to themselves. Like, Benjamin Netanyahu and his government are running their nation into the ground to build military assets and or use all of the ones they have. And when they run out, they will run out.
So the 12-day war used 50 to 60% of Israeli interceptor stockpiles, which means they're going in with at most 50% of their standing inventory stockpile. At 60%, I mean, and I was thinking, interceptor attrition is the limiting factor here. You also have to consider that if they run out of interceptors, a U.S. Retreat becomes harder. Once you start to move those assets, once you start to move your umbrella, once you start to do these things, it gets more complicated. And, the Abraham Lincoln is a crown jewel. It's sitting there waiting for Iran to strike. I said on Monday, we saw the first barrage. It was huge. It was widespread. They inflicted the most humiliating strike in decades when they hit U.S. Fifth Fleet Command, something that should never have happened. It's the seat of power in the Middle East for the United States, and it was struck by, I believe, certainly verified 1, 2, potentially ballistic missiles. This is a humiliation. They already lost the perspective war. The U.S. can no longer protect its allies. The U.S. was telling that region, most certainly, that don't worry, we moved all of our air defenses. They won't touch you. Okay, like we're going to do it. We're going to do it, but we'll protect you. Well, they can't actually, to the point where the international airports in multiple countries, in Bahrain, in Kuwait for sure. And I will get the other one here. Gulf State impacts airports. Dubai was struck as well. And so flights are delayed and suspended. Kuwait, Duqm Port in Oman was hit as well. And then in Bahrain, port adjacent industrial zone. And I might add that port itself was being used for U.S. logistics and offloading supplies. So that's another hit in America's supply chain as well in terms of logistics in this strike. So the big thing I'm seeing here and my takeaway is that the attrition rate on interceptors was much worse than I thought. And the other thing is they were banking on Khamenei's decapitation causing regime collapse, which was extremely naive.
Yes.
That was extremely naive. They believed that they were going to collapse the regime. But I was shocked they actually got Khamenei. He's, all these guys also think they're invisible and gods and they think that they can cheat death, right? So he was in his bunker for weeks and then he decides to come out to make a point or whatever. And they fucking bombed him out of existence. But they still have, I believe it was the foreign minister. Someone has stepped into that role already. He has a son who he's clearly selected as his successor. They discussed all of these things. And the other thing I have to point out is everything above the ground, Iran anticipated they were going to blow up. That's why Iran is filled with tunnels everywhere. It's all tunnels. They have cities.
Those mountains have so many tunnels in them.
They have bunkers that build missiles, which means they could build more ballistic missiles underground. The United States GBU, the bunker busters, they've used everything except for 20, right? So that's maybe 2 operations, if that, which means they don't even have the capacity to hit these facilities. All of them in any capacity. Like, in fact, they are showing us that they're depleting stockpiles that we won't be able to replenish for decades, if that. Like, this was one of our, this bomb, right, was one of our aces in the hole. I remember in last year during the 12-day war, they're like, these bombs are going to destroy everything. Like, this is one of the U.S. best weapons, massive some ordnance penetrators or whatever. But guess what? Like, it didn't do anything either, right? It's like, it's one of the things I think I am starting to realize is that the military itself has been surrounded and wrapped in propaganda in America, in the capacity, at least, of its strength. The U.S. was projecting, but it might be more of a paper tiger than we thought, because its limitation is supply chain. You can have an aircraft carrier, you can have an F-22. If you don't have
if you don't have supplies, you cannot win a war. There's 2 things you really need to win a war, and one of them is the supply chain. Like, one of the most important aspects of war is supplies. Like, if you can't get shit where it needs to go, then you cannot win a war. And if you cannot do it safely, you never are going to win a war. And part of what they need to do to actually rebuild those supplies again is they would need American manufacturing to transition from regular manufacturing to wartime manufacturing, like they did in World War II. That's not going to happen in the US because we're not tooled for it, not yet. And that requires public sentiment that is not there. And so they want, part of the propaganda that we're going to start seeing is around we'll play that after, is a part of the propaganda that we're seeing is going to be around building out the story of, we need American companies to now shift from building products for Americans to build products for war. And that's what they want to be able to do. They want to just shift to a wartime footing, and they're testing out their AI tech now. They want to be able to test out their AI, because Anthropic, Survivor Story, thanks for the comment in there around Anthropic, and then OpenAI getting having access because they are okay with not having any safeguards. They're okay with the trust me, bro, mentality of this. So I think it's right now what we're trying to do is test out new tech. That's what they want to do, is they want to test out their new toys. They're little boys with toys, and that's what it is. They're treating it like a game of army. And if you don't have the supply chain in place, typically you try and get that ahead of time. That's why in America we have this sentiment thing that you're supposed to get, and approval from Congress, because then by the time you get congressional approval, normally you have corporate approval and citizen approval, and you need both to be able to shift to a wartime manufacturing posture, and we don't have either. In fact, so many people are against the idea of another war because MAGA was founded on a nationalist ideology. Nationalism is inherently isolationist by nature. They are inherently isolationist by nature. And most MAGA folks don't want war, whether I agree with them on anything else. If they don't want war and I don't want war, we can at least agree there to stop a war. Because if enough people just say, fuck this, no, it's too expensive already right now. It's going to get more expensive if we shift to a wartime posture, because guess what? Then your goods aren't being made. Instead, they're making missiles and bombs and jet parts and bullets and camo and flak vests and things that are war essential but not person essential for citizenry. That's a way. It's also another way that they're going to profit off this war drastically. And you're going to see an uptick again in drone construction in the US as we're going to push to have more drone manufacturing. Um, on the topic of drones, going back to our earlier discussion around tunnels. So that whole region, this whole region, the Hindu Kush Mountains, the all through from Iraq to Afghanistan to Iran to everywhere in the region, they have tunnel systems because they're a nomadic population that started that region. And nomadic populations find natural caves and tunnels where they can to shelter. And over time, they build them out. And so naturally, those mountains are filled with tunnels, anyways. And like you were saying, bunker busters, we need, if you want to successfully break a bunker inside a mountain, you need 2 to 3 strikes with a bunker buster.
More, right? Because they did that and it didn't even work. So probably 3 to 4, right? Because they were
You need
dropping
at
2.
least 3. You
I
need
would,
at
yeah,
least 3 because the first one tends to just break the mountain and shakes
right,
everything inside. Like the movies kind of get that right. Is the
right.
first one will break that mountain and shake. But if there's a really strong substructure, which at this point there are in these mountains, because yes, Iran is probably building drones in their tunnel systems, in their underground manufacturing plants. They're also probably building nuclear technologies and going there a lot faster now because we force them towards it. That's what happens when you up armor everything is the more armaments, the more everyone wants and needs to make. If you de-arm everything and de-escalate, the less need for the armaments and the less likely they're going to make them. So yes, they make all these things in the tunnels, but you need multiple strikes to break through. We didn't destroy their nuclear capabilities. We set them back, what, a year ago or whenever it was when we
Couple months.
last struck Iran. But like that didn't solve the problem. And this isn't going to solve the problem because they've already replaced the guy. The regime didn't fall, it made it worse. And in fact, that may have been part of the plan and part of the coordination strategy because that increases the ability for China at least to integrate with the Iranian government and the Iranian state system to finish building out a full Orwellian state. It gives them the reason to crack down on their populace even harder than they were. And we didn't help any resistance in Iran because they didn't ask for our help. Had they asked and the public sentiment was there for it, then this might be a different story. But because we didn't ask, we're not going to get the result that we think we want, that the at least our short-sighted idiots in charge think they want, because Operation Epic Fuckery is a bunch of fuckery. Like this, or even Epic Fubar is maybe a better name for this operation. I do like I like the play on the words for folks out there, the Epstein Fury, Operation
Operation
Epstein
Epstein
Fury.
Fury.
That said, this is more than that. This is epic Fubar. Like just stupid. There's no other way I can put this. As a veteran as a prior service member who went to Afghanistan towards the end of the war, who has family that went to Iraq and Afghanistan and other places, who understands the region because I've been there, like, this is fucking stupid. Just stupid. This won't do any good. It won't do any good. And it's going to harden the regime in Iran. It's going to weaken Israel, which Israel may need to be taken down a few notches. Like my thing is, I still don't want people to get hurt. I don't want more war. I don't want all of this to be happening. Like, this doesn't fucking need to be happening. There's no reason for this other than corporate profit. There was no justification to the American people. There was no insights made. There were no congressional hearings. There was no visibility publicly. Oh, yeah. And Shane, go ahead, show some of this stuff on the screen too if
Okay.
you want some of these links.
Yeah, I'm just
You got full
stacking this
control
really
too.
quick.
And so, like, this is all to harden the stretch towards dominion. And I know I haven't talked about dominion in a long time, but like Seven Mountain Mandates and the Christian nationalism side and the ultra Chabadist Zionist side are demanding that we reach Armageddon so that we can get to the other side, and so that they can be saved and they can have dominion over the earth. And that's what they're doing. And that's what part of this is it's a destabilization effort in the region so that they can have dominion over the earth. So we have to remember that, while we talk a lot about this, is it doesn't matter what the end goal is. They don't really, their end goal isn't what we would rationally assume an end goal is. Their end goal is Armageddon so that they can have dominion over others. Shane,
So
I'll
this is
hand it back
Israel.
to you with these. This is fucking,
This
this
is
is
Israel.
Israel.
This is fucking Israel. This isn't Iran. This is
Okay.
Israel.
So I just want to put this out there too. The US historically has been very fortunate. In our homeland has not really been attacked. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have the counterintelligence assets in place right now to prevent an attack on the homeland. And I am not saying by Iran specifically. We don't have the assets in place to prevent an attack on the homeland from white nationalists and supremacists who are going to seize this opportunity to create more chaos. Because the goal for them is not Iran, at least for US. The US in the long run, our leadership probably cares less about Iran than anything else. They're happy for Netanyahu. They want that destabilization in the region. Their goal is to bring chaos into America so that they can cancel elections and consolidate power. Because the one thing that they know is going to happen in November is that they're going to lose all of the elections, basically, in probably one of the largest pro democracy sweeps in history the new um, since the New Deal. Like, this could be one of the largest
I want to
waves
support your
towards
point here
democracy.
when you're done because I think you're right on it, bro. I
And
think
this is all, yeah, just my final piece on this is for anyone who's looking outwards, great. We need to be looking inwards for the counterintelligence aspect of it, because this is when they're going to, they did it. They tried to get the approval and the appeal to do it after they bombed Venezuela. And now they're going to try and do it with Iran. And so we need to be looking out and very, very, very careful about false flag events that are going to come from within our own nation. Shane?
Yeah. So one, I think it's always good to have a little bit of lighthearted. So I'm going to show you this video here in a second. But for
Good.
to your point, it's important to note that Congress, any like basically wartime powers he uses right now without Congress officially giving him a declaration of war is unconstitutional. In fact, this might be the most unconstitutional thing they've done because they declared open war without consulting Congress, which has resulted in billions of dollars in damage, I'm certain, on U.S. assets around the region. Millions in fighter jet losses, hundreds of millions in fighter jet losses, the loss of personnel, potentially command personnel due to the locations that were hit in Bahrain for sure. CENTCOM, that's something we have to consider. Iran claims over 500 killed. The United States claims only 5, 3 or 5, 3 to 5. So I would guess that number is probably 10% of what Iran claimed, maybe 5. But regardless, that's much higher than what the US is reporting. Like, we have to understand that these guys are literally like the least transparent, most corrupt, most likely to lie about everything, particularly if their operation goes awfully and they're being humiliated to the point where
Yes.
they need to ask the UK and the EU to help them continue to bomb. Like, oh shit, we started this and we can't stop this. And that's the difference. But, this is, I really relate to this. If you've seen this movie, you get it. But the subtitle is How It Feels to Scroll Through X This Week. So there you go. I gotta say that's pretty accurate. Now, in terms of a couple other things here that I want to show you guys. We had this here. So Israel's using its laser system as well to intercept rockets. These are from Lebanon. This is important to note. I said on day one that we haven't seen all of Israel's cards, particularly the proxies. This is when I anticipated the proxies would come out. Israel is now in a two-front war, facing attacks from the Houthis. No, not the Houthis. I believe in Lebanon. Maybe it is the Houthis in Lebanon.
No, Lebanon is Hezbollah.
Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis have also activated again in the Red Sea. So they're dealing with Iran directly. The Houthis alone have over 1,000 ballistic missiles. I mean, all of these proxies have missiles, so it's totally possible that they haven't even used the full scope of their assets. And Iran, I also just saw something as well that needs to be confirmed, but if it is true, just another absolutely massive humiliation, where it seems like there was a strike actually on. Well, we'll do this one too. So this is video of British base in Cyprus that is currently smoking and on fire. So Iran has struck European sites as well. And think about this. They've drawn Europe into this. In fact, von der Leyen has now come out and said that Iran requires regime change because Iran intentionally is letting the region on fire. But I'm hard pressed to believe that the EU, one, doesn't have the military force to deploy a massive deployment to the Middle East.
Well, they can't. Not if they're going to try and defend against Russia.
Right. Exactly.
And that's another reason why Trump is, and I think Trump and Netanyahu are doing this, is because they are making Europe choose which front they need to focus on to start a world war.
That's a great point. And I want to take that even one step farther. What they're doing around the Strait of Hormuz
we've talked about Strait of Hormuz before. This is important. Yeah.
And it's effectively shut down right now. That's 20% of, I believe it's 20%, I want to say, of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz every day. Let me check before. 20% of the world's oil through Hormuz. And I mean, regardless, the price of oil per barrel crude is skyrocketing. The precious metals market is going ballistic. Everyone's flying to haven assets. China is a purchaser of, I believe it's over 70, maybe 80% of Iran's oil. And beyond this, the ships aren't going through. The Houthis so the Houthis are active again in the Red Sea. This war shuts off all of this. That means that Europe, which has now leaned heavily on the Middle East for oil because they're moving away from from Russia, now is looking at an imminent energy crisis because of supply chain disruptions, which means that Europe's hand is forced. This also does a couple things. I mean, it takes the US and it makes them one of the only solid liquid natural gas and oil exports available for the time being. But it also puts pressure basically on the whole world. And there's confirmed strikes on oil platforms. There's confirmed strikes on loading and unloading depots. There's confirmed strikes all over. I mean, the Middle East is experiencing like actual infrastructure damage. So every platform that blows up, that's a certain percentage of the global oil capacity that's been damaged. And we have to consider that the pressure and the reaction itself is panic. This is a panicked reaction from the global economy. Europe is freaking out. Everyone said, don't do this because this was going to happen. And I don't honestly know if even a global effort can decisively defeat Iran because of how they've built all of that infrastructure. It requires internal like regime change, right? And it also requires a consistent extended campaign. And neither of those things is the US capable of. And we just don't know. I mean, what that actual outcome looks like. But this could trigger an economic crisis beyond what the hell?
Carl's at it again.
Dude,
It's a good thing you wear pants.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me fix my camera here. I'm gonna take my camera away. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, and thinking while Shane is fixing his camera, thinking on the like financial collapse, that's also something that they have been trying to push through. Like a financial collapse would be important for the crypto side of things, so that crypto can take over, because the US dollar cannot be strong as a physical asset for crypto to take foot and take hold. And so they need to do that so that they can move past the current economic system, which is owned by these states and not by these individuals.
Yep, correct. I mean, yeah, like that's really the crux of it, is that the outcome here is the world is so dependent on oil. It's why our planet is in such deep shit, because everyone's on oil. I mean, like, this is one of those things where if the oil stops coming, the power goes out, and then everything stops. This is like the like more than just run of the mill conflict. Like this is the kind of conflict that causes global panic. We're seeing lots of this. India, extremely dependent on Iranian oil. Everyone was forced to move away from Russian oil. And this puts a lot of pressure on China. But, at the end of the day, this makes the U.S. a pariah. It did the same thing Israel did in Palestine. It destabilized the region for really very uncertain goals. And a defeat, because anything short of a resounding success is defeat for the United States and Israel. Because this battle for them needed to be open and shut, which again, the analysts and the people that I read, my suspicion, Nick's suspicion, we're all like, it doesn't work like that. But this is an idiocracy. And I mean, I think, to be honest with you, the leaders who resigned from our military, and those people who stepped down and allowed our leadership to become this, I hope that they regret their decisions, because these servicemen are dead because we don't have quality leadership in the Pentagon
Yes.
to push back on these stupid decisions. And it's one of those things where I think that we are just not what we are projecting anymore. And that is, and so the point to add too is Israel now has a second front in Lebanon. This is going to scale beyond what they can control, either forcing global intervention, or the world has to just sit there and let the US lose, because a loss is, again, not total defeat, but being forced to give up. And once those interceptors run out, the cost of attrition scales rapidly. It's possible that Iran is holding a large reserve until the interceptors are depleted, because they would know, they have military intelligence, right? They are capable of doing these things. They are a sovereign nation. They might be you know, a religious autocracy, in a brutal regime, but also consider, if the US is counting on internal unrest, bombing a school and killing over 100, I think it's over 140 girls aged 7 to 12, is not the way to win the support of the Iranian people. If you want them in the street fighting, you shouldn't be bombing civilian areas indiscriminately. And even if the IRGC, which are as awful as they are, parked a bunch of military stuff outside of that school, that's a war crime. And it was Israel who dropped that bomb. Not surprising. They have killed in Palestine. They've killed over 50% of the people killed were women and children. They actually enjoy killing women and children, and it's something they do in massive numbers. Whether it's Lebanon, whether it's Syria, whether it's Palestine, and whether it's Iran. This just goes to show, but they're not acting in a way that would guarantee, or you would think they would be striking specifically military targets, and it's one of those things too where we can't trust what Israel and CENTCOM are telling us. They have a vested interest in under describing how badly they're getting whooped. They're going to project strength here. They're going to have American outlets sharing this perspective of the U.S., right? Like Fox, for example, the U.S. strike on the Fifth Fleet headquarters. It was not. The Fox reported it as an empty warehouse, which it wasn't. It was a service terminal. And it was something that it's possible people were killed in there. It's not like they just hit a random empty warehouse. This is part of our headquarters. This is part of a big, again, it's humiliating. It's humiliating. This is like, I'm American, and not only am I disgusted by their decision to do this, but our tax dollars built these facilities across the world. We funded this, and they are compromising the investment that the American people have given them by poorly using our resources. They make us vulnerable. Like, if you think those interceptors, how is he going to do a Golden Dome and deter China and do all of these other things and deliver on actual obligations to allies like European countries who hold billions of dollars in promised contracts, when we can't resupply some of these interceptors for over a decade? Even if we wanted to mine these things that go into it domestically, mining, contracting, and permitting can take up to 10 plus years. Even if they get the permitting and they break all the laws, then you're still looking at 3+ years until these facilities are operational. Physics, time, limitations, rhetoric doesn't matter. We need to look at the hard objective facts, which are often actually behind even the statement as a whole. We need to be looking at how many raw materials can the U.S. get? Can they even do this? And if the answer is no, it really doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter if Trump says it's going to be a 4-week operation. It doesn't matter if Israel mobilizes 100,000 ground troops. Like, they just opened up conscription. in Israel, right? So why are they pivoting towards a larger ground force? What's going on? It means they're not confident in their ability to do this through air supremacy, air superiority.
Well, you can't win a war in from air superiority alone
They thought
anyway.
they could,
Like,
right? I mean, they really did.
yeah, they thought they could, but anyone who's ever studied war in any sort of way, or even played a fucking video game about war, you
Right.
never win a war with air superiority alone.
You know what
Can't.
Russia did? They counted on their tanks. This is the same concept. Russia said, we are going to use our armor advantage and we are going to use that overwhelming advantage on our armor to crush Ukraine. Ukraine adapted, Ukraine was prepared, and Russia saw their offensive stall. If Iran is still launching missiles over the next 2 days, there is no debate that the United States and Israel have failed, because even if they're at 20% capacity, right? Even if the only thing they have left are their underground silos, that's when they say, okay, proxy network, go, right? We can't just assume Iran's direct stockpiles are there. There's multiple layers of this. The entire Iranian defense strategy was for this specific contingency. It's been in the making for decades. Like,
Yeah.
this is like attacking Ukraine in Ukraine and expecting to take Ukraine in 3 days. Except it's the same thing. I mean, it's a pattern when you see a overconfident autocrat creating a credibility trap for themselves. Hey, you have 10 to 15 days. Okay, well, the deadline's coming up. We tried to send the USS Gerald R. Ford to scare them. We tried to send more things, and we really hoped that they would back off. But Iran was like, actually, at this point, they knew this American regime wanted to destroy them. And so the only reaction from their perspective is scorched earth. That's exactly what I would do. It's exactly what I would do. I would hold my cards. I would say exactly what I'm going to do. So when the United States does it, the whole world, America has no excuse for what they've unleashed on the Middle East. And that's exactly what it is. The United States is no longer capable of projecting its own interests in the region, let alone its defense obligations. The United States has caused a international crisis, a potential energy crisis, to disrupt the entire global trade. The United States has directly, basically flipped the bird to its Middle Eastern. And mind you, these are the wealthy countries that provide the regime with all of their criminal capital. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like this is like they have gone and Dubai is going to have to rebuild their airport. America's not going to pay for it. You know, Bahrain's going to have to rebuild their airport. America's not going to pay for it. These luxury hotels that are getting blown up, well, now people are going to be really hesitant to come and stay in these places that has been long. This is their global economic stability. They have marketed themselves as a safe haven for capital. And this capital is now directly under attack. This strategy by Iran is nothing short of the perfect response to American aggression. The only mistake that they have made, if that is a mistake, because I think it was inevitable, I guess, is that Khamenei was killed. But that was clearly a decision but they had a contingency for it. They clearly had a contingency because they're still launching missiles to, like, Israel's on fire. Like this is like really one of those things where I think at this point there's not much of an argument to say that you can't argue success here. And we have yet to see, I believe this, we have yet to see the worst attack. We have yet to see the greatest losses and greatest pain that will be inflicted upon the United States and Israel.
Oh, absolutely.
I believe that there is a credible chance, I would put it around 40%, that we see the first either damaging or a full sinking of a U.S. Navy vessel since World War II, I believe, unless there was like in a combat situation.
And if we see that, that is a lot of service member lives.
Hundreds.
That is a lot of
thousands, possibly,
that is
right?
a lot of service members.
Yeah, it's something we have to
Many of
consider.
those service members, you have to remember there's cooks, there's folks who clean the fucking like part of their, I mean, they all clean because that's your job, but there are cooks and mechanics and intelligence professionals and civilians often on those ships as well. Like if that were to happen, and we've already had to build on the statement, I can see Trump setting up a red flag situation to usurp more power. Well, yes, that's one of the things that we are very, very, yeah, Marines are on there too. Like there's a lot of people on ships, not the money. I don't give a fuck about the money right now. There are a lot of folks who are on those ships that would lose their lives if something sank. If one of our vessels was hit and sank or completely destroyed, that's a catastrophic loss of life. Like you, the that would that would be devastating. And if it were a red flag, because we have already seen evidence of, at least that was presented out, was that the CIA attempted or encouraged something out of Venezuela that could have led to the sinking of the USS Iwo Jima. And had that happened, again, these service members are trained, these sailors, and are trained for an event where they need to shut their friends and their compatriots into a cabin and let them die so that the rest of the ship does not go down.
Yep.
If you don't think that, like, the damage that that is going to do to mental health in this country, like, we think we have a veteran mental health crisis right now. Wait till a Navy vessel gets fucking sunk, like you said, or something, because that's, I think, the most likely of the one of the more likely outcomes, is a vessel being hit. And that, again, that would be devastating.
And I have to say, like, I have to highlight this. They parked a crown jewel. They parked the most juicy target in the Arabian Sea, right there. It's called the USS Abraham Lincoln. And if you want to make a statement that US supremacy is over, you hit a US aircraft carrier. In that scenario where they successfully hit a US aircraft carrier, which I have to say, again, like 30, 40%, right? Because it's possible that they wait 3 to 4 days until US interceptor capacity is at maximum strain. We've only seen over, I want to say total, less than 1,000 drones launched across the region. Iran has tens of thousands of Shaheds.
Yeah, they're the main manufacturer of them.
Correct.
They
It's their
distribute those
drone.
around the world. They have been fueling the Russian war machine with their Shahed drones for years. And we
That
think we're going to be any better off. Like, they'll just shift part of their war machine from sending maybe so many to Russia, and they'll just use them on us instead. And
Well, get
that's
this. So not only that, Russia has already gotten its supply, its production lineup for Shahed. So now Iran's building its own drones. These underground facilities, it might be harder to make a missile. It's not hard to make a Shahed drone in a bunker at all, right? And it takes a lot less time. Like, they have the capacity, short of infantry going into the country and going into these complexes and clearing
which
them
we
room by
will be
room.
doing.
If they might, I think Israel will be doing that. I think that's what they've established, is that they're not going to be able to do it with air dominance. But then again, there's no guarantee that Israel can beat the IRGC in an open war. Like, we have clearly underestimated Iran in a great capacity. Like, even if they're blowing up Iranian ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which they are, that ship means no civilian ships are going through there. They don't have to, Iran doesn't have to close the Strait of Hormuz to close it. They can unofficially close it just by fighting this war. And so That's where we're looking and we're like, okay, this is a situation where they bit off more than they could chew. And that has created a scenario where either they retreat. The best decision would be to pull back your assets, create an air envelope around your most valuable resources using your ships, your destroyers. You're going to want to park those back, get as out of range of as many short range Iranian ballistic missiles as you can, pull those assets back so your interceptors, you can prioritize long range, high yield ballistic missiles, right? That's what you need to do to maintain at least the best defensive posture. We're also seeing that Patriot interceptor batteries are failing a lot to intercept these Iranian missiles, which suggests that these things are faster and better than anyone gave them credit for, because the Patriot system, short of the TAD system, which we definitely have used up probably at least 60, 70, maybe % of those available interceptors, the Patriots are supposedly the best in the world. And they're expending 3 interceptors, each costing millions of dollars to try and stop a missile that costs probably a third of that. And they still failed, right? What does that tell us? I mean, we're looking at that's 3 interceptors we can't replace, expended for a missile that still hit. If that is getting repeated across the theater, which it most certainly is, then again, the rate of attrition here is shocking, that they have not been able to intercept as much as they have with what they have. It goes to show, I think, that just everyone underestimated Iran's response, except, of course, Iran. Like, it's the same thing. They're going into a foreign country, but this is different than Iraq or Afghanistan, because this is a organized country that had a solid regime built into place, a hardened military, lots of experience. They were the pioneers of drone warfare. Iran did it first. Iran built the Shahed. America is trying to copy the Shahed's design, literally, because it is the best drone that has been made. Full stop. I mean, it carries a really solid warhead in there. It's got a really solid yield. It is great at saturating radar. So it's very loud. It's big enough that, you know, these Kuwaiti air defenses, they're experiencing hundreds of drones. If these F-15s are not communicating, that thing looks on a radar like it could be a Shahed drone. They're making split-second decisions here. So if an F-15 roars through there, and again, they're clearly not collaborating with these Gulf states. Everyone is defending themselves by themselves. And even if you bring European troops into the theater, the relationship between the militaries and NATO has severely degraded. We're not looking at the same ability to coordinate forces as you were before. You're having a bunch of individual nations defending themselves as the United States and Israel conduct a military operation at a massive scale without communicating effectively with the regional countries that are defending themselves. That is chaos. You cannot conduct this kind of operation in a state of chaos. You need to have like everything squared away. On top of that, they definitely have to pull all personnel out of the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, because it's been demonstrated that it can be struck, which means their C2 module for that region is no longer viable. They need to move their leadership and their operational command somewhere else in the theater. That slows operational tempo. That increases attrition. That makes it so that even if they have to fly, they're also going to be more dependent on their carriers. This is what Iran wants. You want to hit the bases in the region, force them to move higher value assets onto carriers, and create that scenario where you're going to get the most return on your expenditure of missiles. When they hit that carrier, it's not going to be a drone. My theory, okay, if I was going to hit this carrier, if it's me, okay, I launch several waves of Shahed drones, numbering in 1 to 200. I saturate the space, and with those drones, I launch 2 to 3 ballistic missiles. I do this in several waves until I've saturated the zone and I've depleted a certain percentage of interceptors. The crew is tired. things are a little bit like they haven't been able to launch aircraft. And then I launch a massive wave of maybe 500 with 10 to 15 ballistic missiles. That will overwhelm the Aegis system. It will overwhelm the Sea Whiz. It will overwhelm everything. And they can literally wipe that carrier off the map. That capacity exists. The capacity exists for them to kill thousands of sailors in a matter of moments. And that's going to be a moment, if it happens, when the world stops. When the world order really collapses is when and if, which we have to consider this a credible reality. This needs to be considered as possible.
Yeah.
And because they have practiced this, I would remind everybody that on February 3rd, the Iran actually approached the USS Gerald Ford, the USS Abraham Lincoln, with a reconnaissance drone, and the US was forced to intercept it with an F-35, meaning that they've been keeping tabs on that asset. They know, and everyone should know, including our military, that you go for the most impactful statement. They've already hit the headquarters. Now you hit the seat of power. If I was also to move my C2 into theater, I would station them on the Lincoln if I had to, right? You consider that probably the best forward operating station they would have. It's probably the most defendable from their perspective. You're going to have Arleigh Burke class destroyers. You have a good Aegis system. You have aircraft. Again, it's saturation. This is where we're seeing drone warfare change for the second time. This is actually concrete proof that warfare has changed, because it doesn't matter how many AIM missiles you have, you can only shoot down your pylons on a jet probably have anywhere from 8 to 10 on a fully loaded jet, less than that, right? We've seen this problem in Europe with NATO, where they see Shahed drones come in and they spend $30 million in missiles, and guess what? They still can't shoot them all down because they don't have enough pylons, right? They don't have enough.
Mhm.
The same applies here. I mean, we've seen what happens, and we know what happens, and Iran has been watching. I think we're still seeing the beginning of this, because we've only seen two of three proxies activate,
Mhm.
and like there's more for this. And even if the regime collapses, that doesn't mean that the proxies are going to stop. The Iranian government declared jihad against the United States following Khamenei's death. They are not interested in negotiation at this time. I mean, like, this is probably what Khamenei's will was. He probably was like, if they kill me, burn it all, like all of it. And that's precisely what we're seeing. And this is how I did anticipate this to go. The first 1 to 2 days, they're going to let the U.S. and Israel strike, and they're going to let them destroy everything above the ground, because they knew that was going to happen. They knew that was going to happen. There's no way it doesn't happen. They don't have the air defenses, right? So you're going to expect them to distribute their things, their missile launchers. They also all have mobile launchers, right? These are all mobile. They move around. So it's like not something where your intelligence is going to be as effective. They've proven, there's actually a video I can show that I found of a Israeli drone being intercepted. Let me see if I sent it to you. By a I'll find it and I'll send it. We can put it in the show link.
Okay.
We'll put a couple of these. We have a bunch of things here, so we can share this with you guys. Some of these, but the big thing, to at least for me, to take away here is that we're seeing attrition faster than we thought. We're seeing Israel let through missiles on day 2 that are killing people. We're seeing Israel now forced to operate in Lebanon, as Hezbollah is also attacking. So they created a 2-front war. You don't need to even be a general or a tactician to know that fighting on 2 fronts is not sustainable. Now they're going to have missiles coming in from Lebanon's rockets. They have to deal with those too. This is scaling so much faster, and the damage every hour it goes on, every missile, eventually the region just runs out of its capacity to intercept entirely. they have to successfully like straight up collapse and force the Iranian military, the IRGC, to collapse ineffectively. But then you still have probably well over 1,000 ballistic missiles in the country at that point that are now just changing hands through different groups, right, of power. You're
Mhm.
going to have a splintered thing. You're going to see more proxies, probably. You're going to see extremist groups, and they still have the missiles, and the interceptors are still depleted. It doesn't matter. They grossly miscalculated the region's hatred. And now all those people who are begging the United States, please come save us, saw the United States kill 140 of their children. They're indiscriminately bombing all these things. These guys aren't heroes. They don't feel saved. Like, this is disgusting. It's just another example of war crimes, because the people of Iran deserve to be liberated from Khomeini and from the Ayatollah. Absolutely. They are a horrible regime. They're oppressive. They treat women so poorly. They're monsters. I would equate them to our billionaires in terms of their despicable and disgusting behavior and treatment of women and children. They're monsters. They're all the same as our monsters who are committing these atrocities onto them. But regardless, this scenario, it keeps winding up, and unless something significant happens, then this trajectory ends with more U.S. losses and potential for a catastrophe. And I think
Yeah.
maybe part of that is to consider is if they sink a U.S. carrier, will Congress declare war? Will they do that? Will that
Yeah.
persuade
Yeah.
Democrats to give him wartime powers? The answer should be no, because they send more and more will die. But we also know that the Democrats are owned by the AIPAC lobby. I don't believe that the Congress will actually stop him. I think there's a really good chance that they give him the wartime powers, which effectively ends the U.S. Constitution. At this point, we've seen them break every single possible thing that they could do. They've violated every single check on the president's power. At that point, it's like we have to look and say, okay, well, what even is the United States even still exist? Like, that's something we need to frame, right? Like, does America exist after the Constitution has been dismantled? My argument would be no, that our country is no longer America, because America is based on a certain constitution. It has governing principles. It has checks and balances. That effectively means we have lost our government in that capacity, and it opens up a lot of lines of questioning as a citizenry. Like,
Yeah.
where are we? Because from an American perspective, this is going to be extremely unpopular when the numbers come out that at least over a dozen American servicemen are dead. Because I don't think the number stays this low. And Iran is still striking. They're still doing it. So,
Yeah. It's still going to get worse.
yeah, Nick, I would say, I don't know. What are your thoughts on all this? This is basically everything I've been doing all weekend. I should have more for you guys as well for the show at noon here. I'm going to get everything that's going on. I'm working closely with Nick and Sherrod at Senator America as well to make sure I'm getting all this information out on as many channels as possible. So I'm happy to be collaborating as an analyst with Banner and Backbone, as well as Senator America in that capacity, so we can all get that information. So I'm glad that we're able to use this through multiple channels, and that I'm able to provide this kind of analysis to everyone across the platform. But I mean, yeah, I think that this
No,
is
I think you summed a lot of it up really well.
Yeah.
I think in the end, one of the things too at the end here, just to reiterate what you just said at the very end here, is you're going to see a lot of increased collaboration with Shane, myself, our good friends at Senator America. We are all working in the
and Gavin,
same
by the way.
direction to get the truth out. We are working with each other as friends, as collaborators, as public contributors. If you'll notice, both of us are now listed as public contributors with Senator America. We post on there. We put our thoughts out, and we're starting to do more with each other. So continue to see that collaboration grow among us. You're going to. We think they're an incredibly worthwhile and meaningful group. their organization stands for a lot of really good things, and we value what they are. We value them, and the platform that they are providing us to be able to spread what we're discussing, and how we get the information and knowledge out there. Um, and so, just wanted to say, I think they're awesome. I think it's awesome that we get to do this. We are not cross streaming with them right now, but that is something that we're going to be working towards, is to cross stream and cross platform with Centered America, so that we can get the message out to a broader audience with anyway. Like, more people need to hear this, what the things we're talking about, because one of the things we are doing is we are trying to identify the public sentiment and drive public sentiment, so that Congress actually does act in the way that the citizenry wants, which is, we don't want more war. We don't want war. We don't want war at all. And if we can do that together, the larger the voice, the larger the platform, the better, so that we can get it out there. And we trust Centered America because they're transparent, and they show that they don't hide behind BS. They're also really well sourced, um, and really well thought out. So,
And now they're getting our sources too,
mhm,
which are also well
yeah,
sourced, right? So we're putting together good sourcing. Like the standards that they use at America are absolutely in line with my standards, which are rigorous as hell. It's Q6. I always say this: if you're watching a report and they're not giving you the who, what, when, where, why, how, okay, this Q6, then you're not getting an honest reporting. Now, I might not always have all 6 Qs, but I will tell you which Qs we're waiting on. I will tell you what questions remain. I will never provide you, maybe in my analysis, a certain level of finality, but in terms of the actual reporting, I will point out to you if we can't confirm that information. Even throughout this discussion today, I told you, hey, this may have happened, but I can't confirm this. There's a huge issue right now with people grabbing information, and just reporting it, across platforms that are supposed to do a better job. There is a scramble to get the scoop. I would rather wait until the end of the day and give you a summary that tells you everything that happens, instead of you having to put together sporadic breaking news reports about 20 different things. That's not helpful to you. It's
yeah,
it's confusing and chaotic. And so if you want to know what happened yesterday, I put out a article last night. It's very short. It's my 5 critical takeaways from day 2. That's it. It's 5 things, and you can read that and you can feel comfortable knowing that I actually know what's going on. I actually know the stakes. I actually know that these things are happening. And you can read that in 2 minutes. It's not about this other that it's like we need to define what the expectation is in the space. And me and Nick and the guys at Centered America, Sheridan, Gavin, Nick might be the oldest among us, but Nick is still young. We're a younger generation. We need to define what our expectation is for journalism. Like everyone in this industry, they've had their chance, in my opinion. They've been doing this for years. Like if they're not meeting the standards that citizens deserve, if our citizen journalists, you need to feel like you can come to somebody like me, I hope, and get reportable information to solve your own problems. You need to be confident that you can take a story and repeat it and not be giving out misinformation. And right now, even a lot of the most well-respected people out there are still falling victim to the fact that they report on American media like it's actual truth. They are still pushing a certain level of misinformation. What we do at Centered America, at the Firebrand Project, and Banner and Backbone, we're looking at this situation from a perspective of what is all of the information saying. We're not going to report on this unless we're confident. And if we are going to report on it, we're going to let you know exactly what our level of confidence is. This is the freaking difference, right? This is where we're falling short because, like, right now, there's a lot going on. This ties into China and the Hormuz. This ties into the Middle East. This ties straight back into our corruption problem in the US. It was Abu Dhabi that provided the money, the capital for the Paramount Skydance acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery. They did that. And now the United States just threw them under the bus and they got bombed because they didn't listen. Right? How does that affect these relationships? Additionally, one last consideration I think is important here. The United States diplomatically was leaning on the Epstein network. That was how they were operating in terms of diplomatic channels because all of these people were comfortable with this. Epstein may have died, but the network still remained. This is also going to further damage the Epstein network, particularly in the Middle East, which was already damaged because of the fact that the files came out and these individuals were getting outed. And Europe was taking people out of the system and it was breaking. All right. This is happening in tandem with Iran. I'm going to say 2 words: extinction burst, guys. This is where I think we're starting to come up on the point where we're looking at a US extinction burst. And this is really one of those moments to watch. This is truly historic. And this is the part of this is the part where I said before, if they do this and if the United States does this, they're sacrificing their global dominance. They're sacrificing their credibility in terms of defense. And no one wants U.S. weapons anymore. They've failed to stop Iranian missiles. Why the hell would they want to buy those? They're going to look for something else. They're going to produce a domestic solution in Europe. Right? Like, these are things that it just really goes on and on. And if I leave you with one thing, it's that no matter how this ends, the U.S. has already lost. Israel has already lost. And I really want to clarify that because the only victory for them was total annihilation, immediate regime change, and that didn't happen. And so keep that in mind as we go forward. Because that's really just the verifiable truth that we have. There's really no question the outcome here in terms of that. So like every day it gets worse for them. Every day it's going to put more pressure on them. I mean, we'll see what they decide if, and the big, I think, decision maker here is going to be Congress. And how it chooses to proceed from a U.S. domestic perspective, because it, like I said, it kind of sets the case. It would be the last kind of greatest refusal to follow constitutional norms. As one of those core elements of our Constitution is maintaining that the people of the United States have the power to decide whether they want to declare war or not, whether they want to commit the United States Armed Forces to danger where our soldiers might die. And this executive branch is taking that away from the legislative branch that represents the people. They have stolen our decision as Americans to decide whether or not we are willing to go to war, whether we are willing to support a war, and we are not.
That's a really good and really important point, because one, Banner and Backbone is all about the civic engagement aspect and getting involved and being a participant. And not just being a spectator for democracy, but actually participating in democracy. Part of that, one of the main pieces of that, is reminding your fucking legislators to do their goddamn job. And that job is to say no to war. Or say yes. If they're going to say yes, at least they've said fucking yes. At least they've done their job to approve it, to say, here you go, bomb the fuck. And I don't want that decision. But yes, but there's war power resolutions and acts, and depending on how the administration, how the executive branch worded what they were doing, if they said we're declaring war on Iran, like as that is their pretext, that's very different than saying we're doing an armed conflict. Because yes, legally, in the US right now, we have legalized authoritarianism where the dickhead in charge gets to do something with the military and then retroactively get approval from it from Congress. That's not how the system was meant to be. That's not how the system was actually designed. That actually circumvents the whole system in place so that the president doesn't just do that, because our founders were afraid of a dictator. They rebelled against a king. And so they were wary of a dictator. We didn't even have a president at first. They didn't even want to put one into, they didn't
Correct.
even want to do an executive branch. And then they did. And now we're stuck with the ramifications of those actions. Um, and so to close out our really good discussion again today is come support Banner and Backbone.
Mhm.
Come be part of the network that's building. We are actively working on a whole bunch of stuff to make everything, to make what our products are better for you guys, even better than what we're trying to do. We hold ourselves to a high standard. We're trying to increase our standard, not because we have to, but because we want to, but
Yep.
because we think it's better for us, for y'all. We
You
want to do
deserve
it.
it. You
You deserve it.
deserve
We deserve it. We're also going to be very transparent with y'all as we go and do the work that we're doing to increase the offerings for Banner and Backbone and Firebrand Project and Sick of This Shit Publications and Centered America and all of our friends around us is what we're doing to support and help grow them. Banner and Backbone's a huge part of that. And is also the reason that I get one of the reasons that I get to go to Minneapolis this week is because
so
we
cool, buddy.
started Banner and Backbone, and you all became a part of this and the anti-fascist book club communities, which has led me to get invited to represent and be sponsored by Veterans Fighting Fascism at the Dropkick Murphy event in Minneapolis to pay tribute to Renee Good and Alex Preddy and their lives and give back to the community. And I have this opportunity because you guys have made it possible. Like you all in the audience have made this possible through Banner and Backbone, through Sick of the Shit Publications, through supporting Centered America, through supporting Shane and the Firebrand Project. Come support us here. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are amazing, and the support is amazing. And I we can't do it without you. And so come be paid or free subscriber. Paid would really help. It helps build out and give us the ability to make the tools and finance them because we're bootstrapping it with
Yeah,
y'all's
we are.
support. Um,
We are.
and so, Shane, promote yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, those of you who've been with me for a long time, you know that I've put on several different hats on this journey. And so, as I've gotten better at what I do, as I've learned where I think I can contribute the most, I think that I can be of most support to everybody and to be fight for democracy across the world by bringing real high quality reporting and analysis to everybody, which is why I'm really proud to have this relationship with Senate America, Banner and Backbone. And I'll be able to operate in a different capacity. I'm going to start to feed and help support geopolitical reporting across multiple channels, which means I'm going to be contributing to them. I'm going to be going Banner and Backbone, and I'm going to be um, giving them analysis for them. We're starting to cross work together here. I'm going to be doing the analysis for Centered America. And of course, you can come and support me directly in my doing this at the Firebrand Project, because what you're going to see is my content change a little bit, because the best thing I can do to support my team, which is the three of us at the moment working together to make something better than what currently exists. um, it's time for me to step into a support role to focus on what I'm really good at, and to help get everyone the information. So things are going to be changed, but not in a bad way. The Firebrand Report's not going away. My shows aren't going away, but it gives me time because I can spend that time research that I would have spent posting a lot of these things myself by going to, helping give them the information. They save time, I save time, and that gives me more time to give you guys real analysis. And that's what we need to do. So If you want to support me in doing this for the time being, like you said, we're bootstrapping it. And as we build and work together, things might change. But for the time being, if you want this kind of journalism, come and support me, because I slept, I told Nick, I've slept like 12 hours this weekend, right? Like I didn't want to work, but like I'm committed to this. Like, and I don't get paid to work on the weekends, right? Like, so thank you to everyone actually who saw my reports and signed up as a paid subscriber. It makes me feel like you guys really want to see this and support this kind of reporting. If what you're not getting, if what you're getting isn't what we're delivering today, I implore you to maybe change your contribution so we can give you more of this, because it's about putting your support where you're going to make the most difference. And we're committed to doing that for you. I'm committed to doing that. Nick is committed to doing that. Senator America, Sherrod Sweeney, and Gavin are committed to doing that, and we will continue to do so. So any support you provide us is really important at this moment in time. So keep doing what you guys are doing. Keep coming to the shows, and keep, because the most important thing I say on every show I do, but make sure you guys take this information, because this is verified. Like, you guys can use this with confidence, right? So you can go and talk about these things. And that's really important too, because having people out having the discussion about what's really going on, not just saying what, somebody said about something else, or some comment made by a reporter that wasn't based on a foundational thing, right? The telephone game is very real. And so come support places that are actively fighting against the telephone, that we know what the telephone is doing and we know how to fight that. So support us as we do that, and make sure you share all of our publications with your friends. Get them the information that they deserve. Get them real information. Bring them here and show them what real independent journalism looks like. We have to define it so that the people in the space, if they want to call themselves independent journalists, they need to adhere to the ethical standards that citizens deserve, that transparency requires. And we're going to try and set that standard for the entire industry. Like, we're young people. Like, we've had enough of this. I'm tired of it. It's our future. Nick's got kids. I want to have kids. Sherrod's and Gavin, they're both very young. They're 19. Support young people while we freaking fight, because it's our future. Enough of the people that have had their chance. Support us so we can give it a try, because you've been supporting these other folks, and guess what? We're still here. So let's see if we can do something differently. And that's what I want to leave you guys with. So please come and support every single one of us, Banner and Backbone, and me at the Firebrand Project as well. It's really important. And I appreciate you guys tuning in today. And I hope you are leaving more informed and more aware than you were when you got here today. So thank you guys very much. And of course, this has been Palantalk, where
Hold on. I still got to do mine, bro.
Oh, dude.
You skipping over mine, bro.
No, I don't. Sorry, guys. Nick makes all the magic happen. Nick makes the magic happen. And now I have to compensate for my ignorance by hyping him up. So I've been working with Nick for a long time. Nick is a backbone, not to be. He's the backbone.
Now use the play on words. That's why we're Banner and Backbone. We've got banners and backbones.
He's the backbone holding the banner, right? So, this is what he's what we need. He is a person who supports others. He supports me, and he is an essential part of our community. So please go support him directly on his publication. Sick of this publications.
Thanks, man.
Sick of this shit.
Sick of this shit publications, because I'm sick of the shit. Like, I started almost 8 months ago now. I guess 8 months ago now, really. I lost my job, and it was either go downhill or try and be creative. So I went and started writing poetry, and I got creative, and it led me here. and it got me to where I'm at now. So I've been building Sick of This Shit publications. I do a chronic illness discussion and mindfulness discussion every Monday morning. And I do a lot of masculinity talks. My Sick of This Shit publications is less political focused overtly. It is not about news. It's not really a news focused platform. It's a culture focused platform because, hey, man, we kind of suck right now and we need to do better. And we need to make a manosphere that doesn't suck. So we need a space that is good for that. And that's what I'm trying to do at Sick of This Shit publication. So come be a free or paid subscriber. Paid subscribers, again, really help. They really help to in the algorithm, but they also help pay for the tools that we're building out and the services that we are creating for others to use, and for us to be able to use to distribute better content more widely on all of the correct platforms and get you guys the news that you need, but also build this audience so more people get it. And we've mentioned them a couple times. Because I want to, I'll give them a shout out. Is support our friends at Centered America. Sherrod Sweeney and Gavin Favor are doing incredible work. We work alongside them and support the work that they're doing, and we'll be working more closely with them throughout the year. And in the next coming days and weeks, we will be working to make sure you all have the best possible sources in news and information and culture. And you'll be able to get it all from us and Centered America and Shane and Banner and Backbone. So, friends, this has been an incredible discussion. Have had a lot of fun today, even though we've talked about some not as fun news. It's been good. We've gotten to have a great conversation. Shane, appreciate your really thorough analysis again, and the pushback and the back and forth as we try and identify the truth, try and make sure that we hold ourselves to a high standard, and put ourselves out there so that you all are armed with the correct knowledge, because this is Palantalk, where we like tech.
No fascism.
Thanks, y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern.